Welcome to our Israel trip. I want to thank you for joining us, our Golden State Baptist College 2019 Israel trip. We're at day one, and we're going to be bringing you videos and pictures on our website every day. And I want to thank you for joining us on this first day. It's winter here in Israel, and we are in Joppa. Joppa is just south of Tel Aviv. Behind me is the Mediterranean coast and the city of Tel Aviv, where the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1948 by the first Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion. Right here in Joppa, a suburb, if you will, of Tel Aviv, is where really we have the epicenter of the gospel going to the Gentile world. First in the Old Testament, the story of Nineveh. Jonah did not want to go to the Ninevites. They're the enemy of God's people, the enemy of the Jews. And he would go from here, instead of going to the desert, Nineveh, he would take a ship and go to Tarsus, the complete opposite way. Then when we come to the New Testament, Acts chapter 10, God prepares the heart of Peter to take the gospel to the Gentiles in Caesarea, just up the coast, about 25 or 30 miles. Caesarea is a Roman city, a Roman port, a resort town, if you will, for the Roman officers and for Herod and Caesar, named after Caesar, the port of Caesarea. And there is a Roman citizen. He's Gentile. He believes in God, but he's not saved. And he's looking for salvation. His name is Cornelius. He's a captain, a Roman officer. And in a vision, the angel tells him, send to Joppa, right here, this place. And there's going to be a man that's going to come, and he's going to tell you everything you need to do. Basically, whenever he comes to Cornelius, Cornelius tells Peter, all I know is that the angel came and told me there's a preacher that's going to come, do whatever he tells you to do. Meanwhile, here in Joppa, God is working on the heart of Peter, because Peter's a good Jew. Peter did not go to the Gentiles. He would not eat with them. He would not go into their homes. And God is going to use a vision of unclean beasts, unclean animals. And he says, rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter says, no, I'm a good Jew. I would never eat anything that's not kosher. And the Lord tells him, Peter, what I have cleansed, that call not thou common. We know the interpretation of that vision because Paul gives us that interpretation first with Cornelius and then with the church in Acts chapter 11. Peter says that through that vision, God was preparing his heart by saying, Peter, I have prepared for the gospel salvation to go to the heathen. I've prepared for the cleansing of the nations. What I have cleansed, that call not thou common. And Peter says, I could not withstand God. It's God's will for us to take the gospel to the heathen Gentiles. And so God would use Peter right here at this place to then take the gospel to the Gentiles. And then in Acts chapter 11, he would defend what he had just done because the church at Jerusalem was not happy for what he had done. You're a Jew. How could you take the gospel that was given to us to people that are heathen? They're idolatrous. And Peter says, this is God's will for the gospel to go to the Gentiles. From that point forward, we see now the gospel beginning to go to us, our forefathers, the Gentiles. Now, God wouldn't use Peter to take the gospel to the Gentiles, but he would use Peter to prepare the heart of the church at Jerusalem to send the gospel to the Gentiles. In Acts chapter 13, God would use Paul, who was saved in Acts chapter 9, just before this story here. And then Paul in Acts chapter 13 would then take the gospel to the Gentile nations. In Acts 12 and 13, we transition from Jerusalem to the world. We transition from the Jews to the Gentiles. And we transition from Peter to Paul, now taking the gospel from Judea to Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth. Thank you once again for joining us from right here in Joppa, south of Tel Aviv on the Mediterranean coast. God bless you.